Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Carbon, and with me, of course, is Mr. Matt Germain. Good afternoon, evening, and whatever else it might be. How you doing, Matt?
I'm enjoying the trade deadline, Mark. I think I'm ready for changes to be made across the league, and the weather's heating up, the phones are heating up, or texts, or however GMs communicate nowadays. It's no longer smoke signals. I think they have group chats, and they use them a lot more efficiently than the governments do, I think, nowadays.
Well, let me get my Signal account up here and see if I'm. He's on my. Oh, he's not supposed to be there. Never mind.
I'm waiting for that to happen in baseball, where they send a trade offer to the wrong person, and they're like, "Wait a minute, what are you doing?"
Why is his wife on this chat? I didn't expect to see the owner's wife on this thing. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you look at all that's going back and forth with all these trades and all. I mean, to me, the whole idea is it's sort of like baseball. You never know what's going to happen by the end of the ninth inning. And it's same with these trades. Everybody likes to speculate. And there's a few people out there who speculate and you go, that particular person, no. I'm not going to believe that particular source. I know that source has done for me in the past. And there's those that you trust. I mean, Ken Rosenthal is one you feel pretty confident about, I believe, but there's a lot of other ones, not so much.
It's funny you say that, because I find he's changed his style a lot since he's kind of been severed from the traditional news routes. At that point, he was extremely conservative about what he would say and what he wouldn't say. So I think he's changed that a little bit because of that. And now he's a little bit more open to speculation because it gets him more airtime and more clicks and more, bait. So I think he's leaned a little bit further from what I think Jeff Passan is the guy that you would say is still acting in the role that Ken Rosenthal used to act.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing those different styles where when Jeff Passan says something is happening, it's happening. Like there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jon Heyman, on the other hand, is the other side of those where he's throwing caution to the wind and he's like, you know what, this sounds like it might be plausible, and somebody threw me a piece of information. I'm just gonna run it right over to the edge and see where it lands. And it's fun. It's fun to go with. So yeah, you get the different reporters and the different styles. And so what sources do you lean on this time of year?
Oh, brother, I do the MLB trade rumors. That's one of them. I do look at passing occasionally. If I see Heyman and some other ones, I just skip right past them. I'll look sometimes. I'll see what Craig Calcaterra may be talking about. And you, sir, you seem to have your thumb quite a bit on there. You go through quite a bit of the sources. But yeah, passing's probably the first one I look at these days.
Yeah, I watched. It's funny. I was watching Jon Heyman on YouTube today, just because I'm in trade deadline mode. I want to see who's saying what and what. Sometimes you don't have the ideas, but then somebody else throws a name out there, and you're like, well, I don't think he would fit on this team, but I think he would fit somewhere else, and it brings about ideas that you wouldn't have thought of in the past. But so I was watching him, and the whole time during this YouTube thing, he's looking down at his phone and then looking up again. He's like, wait a minute, wait, I'm getting information. So you know that he's got like 15, 20, 30 people texting him information all the time. And he has to sit there live on YouTube and try to figure out if it's credible or not. Does he say anything? And you can see the wheels spinning. He's reading his text. He's like, wait a minute, guys, I gotta go. Oh, wait, I gotta get another piece of, and he keeps doing that back and forth. And it's just funny to watch because he's being tormented and he wants to spill it all out there, right? That's our inclination as human beings. We have information, we want to share it with people. That's the way we are.
Well, Matt, is they want to keep their credibility. So if he's got 15, 20 people sending him stuff and then still trying to say, I've got to be current, I got to be fresh, and if it's hot, I want to get it out there, but can I trust this source? Yeah, when you're doing this stuff live, and that's why we love to record it here in advance. But
I want to use one example from last year, or is it 2 years ago? Shohei Ohtani was on a plane, right?
mm-hmm.
who was saying all of that, about, oh, he's going to be at such and such a restaurant because that restaurant was booked by for this many people. And then they're tracking the plane. It's going to land in Toronto. Everybody's waiting for Shohei to show up in Toronto, right? Like that's a big deal. That's a heartbreak that it's hard to get over sometimes. But yeah, guys like John Paul Morosi and everything else, like of course they're running with it because it's huge news. And sadly, I don't think we're going to have that kind of news this time around, Mark. I don't know which biggest names you're expecting to get moved, but I think it'll be a little tamer overall than Shohei.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing anybody that huge either. I mean, I'm looking across even just with our Rays. Uh, well, let's see, what do we have? Thus far, I know the catcher Danny Jansen's gone,
Right.
and it was kind of weird. And this is the thing; it's kind of the nature of the trades too. Is Danny, we're trading you, but by the way, we need you sitting here in the dugout tonight because hey, if Matt Thaiss something goes wrong, I'm not going to put Taylor Walls behind the plate to catch. So I got to have you here, Danny, till all that's done. And it's those odd moments where a person has to be in transition. His mind's already probably going to that next team, and there's also some pain of leaving these guys he's built friendships and a team spirit with together. Strange.
I think it was an opportunity missed, Mark. Like, imagine the marketing that it would have happened if they did have to put Taylor Walls back there. I would have even told Nick Fortes, listen, around this time, at the eighth inning, or sorry, who was catch Matt Dice.
Thanks.
I would have said, you know what, in the seventh inning, get a cramp or something so that we need to put Taylor in. I need the news to come across, right? And
Oh, I
just
love it.
up. Maybe I'm positive Taylor Walls would have been like, yeah, I'd love to go back there. Sure. No, it's not easy to catch a 98 mile an hour fastball, and with the way that they finish, at the end, it just takes that one missed hit ball to hit them in the wrong area, and then boom, that
Oh,
clears
yeah.
out as well, right? So I get it. No, that's definitely the first time though, Mark, I think I've ever heard or seen that happen,
Hmm.
where a player gets traded and still ends up on the bench for a game like that.
I'm trying to think of there was one today, and I can't remember if it was the Orioles and the Blue Jays, and the person went through the tunnel from one team to the other. And I
Yes.
think that was today.
Right.
Did you,
Anthony Dominguez.
that's it.
Yes.
Yeah. You,
Yeah.
still, you talk about suddenly feeling immediately separated. I mean, you don't know how much knowledge they may have on this. I mean, there's always rumors. There's always speculation. I mean, I was listening to WDAE yesterday, and they were talking with Pete Fairbanks, and Peter, are you going to be traded? Pete doesn't know. He hopes he's able to stay. I likes it here, but
Years in a row they've been trying to trade him. Like that, everybody speculates that he's going to be. Now, I will say this time around it feels different, and I'll say two things for that. Number one, they brought in Brian Baker, and I know they really like Edwin Uceta. So when you consider those two ingredients, you're saying, okay, well, they could slide Uceta into the closer's role, have Baker setting him up, and then get whatever value they can out of Pete Fairbanks. And the other part is, I don't believe that they're comfortable paying him 6 million next year.
mm,
Within, I don't know what the budget's going to be next year. I really truly don't. Having said that, he did sign a team friendly deal with the Rays. So, you have to respect that aspect. But last year they traded Jason Adam. They got a pretty good haul for him. I don't know, based on the peripherals that Pete Fairbanks is putting up right now, if they get a similar value. It depends on how desperate certain teams are. Like right now, I think we just heard Jhoan Duran got traded to the Phillies, right? So the Mets have picked up a couple of relievers. The Blue Jays have picked up a couple of relievers. So if you're one of those other teams that haven't gotten a reliever yet or haven't boosted that area of your team, are you starting to get desperate and antsy to add a piece? So you look across MLB, there's a lot of teams that are still in it. You're not getting a reliever from the Rockies and trusting that. You're not getting a reliever, so now everybody's talking about Mason Miller, which is going to cost you an arm and a leg, and Pete Fairbanks. And those are the two big pieces, right? So if you're the Dodgers, Padres, Giants, maybe the Mariners, but they have some intriguing arms back there already. The Rangers, that's where I have Pete Fairbanks going, is the Rangers. And they're the
Wow.
team that drafted him and brought him up and traded him to the Jays, to the Rays, right, for Nick Solak way back when. So I think they make the most sense for a lot of reasons. Number one, they have a lot of outfield prospects, which the Rays, they're still today trying to figure out the outfield, angle of the system. I don't think they've perfected it. They got Aiden Smith last year, and I just think that they match up in terms of needs and it not hurting the Rays too much this year.
Well, it's been interesting talking about the outfield. I think Chandler was either not starting a couple of nights ago, and I was concerned for a moment. I hadn't seen it. He's been injured or something. But it was good because I got to see Johnny DeLuca come out. You're talking about the outfielders. And man, you see him, he runs up to catch that ball and he has to climb up the wall, not to catch it necessarily, because just sheer momentum that he had to get there. And then tonight watching Chandler out there, and there's a ball and it's going high, and he gets all the way to this back to the wall, leaps straight up, catches that ball just before it goes over the wall. These guys are exciting. They are bringing performance to the game. And let's face it, Chandler brings it on the bases as well. But as far as outfielding, I mean, you look at Josh Lowe, and Josh has his good days and his bad, but he performs pretty well in the outfield. Mangum, Morel, I'll be honest with you, Morel, I have to say, I don't see him there. I mean, I see him down AAA. Maybe there's more to work on, but that's just me.
So the problem that I have with the Rays outfield is this. If you're looking at the contenders, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Jackson Churio, who's a megastar in the Brewers. Yeah, the Dodgers have Mookie Betts.
Yep.
They have Juan Soto in New York. They have Aaron Judge in New York. Everybody has that one staple outfielder, usually in right field, that can really be the focus of their offense and also play a solid defense. The Rays have never had, that I can remember, maybe Carl Crawford, you could argue, was close to that player, but they've never had that all five tool kind of player that is in the top, 10 to 20 hitters in MLB. Jonathan Aranda would be the first guy that I could say, is internally built, that is a top 30 hitter in MLB right now, and he's playing a premium position at first base. So the bat is warranted there for that position, right? But they've never had that in the outfield. They've tried Josh Hamilton, and then you can go back to all the first round picks that they had way back when, or second round picks that they've invested a lot of money and time into. Some unfortunate off the field, things ended up hurting those careers. But Kevin Kiermaier was a stud defensively, but he was never going to be an elite player offensively.
Yeah.
I want the Rays. It's fine if you have that in center field, but I want them to have the corner outfielders that are able to anchor the lineup in the same way that happens on some of those premium teams. Because let's face it, when you get to the playoffs, those key moments and the pressure on the pitchers happens because the length of that lineup and the beasts in the outfield corners are putting pressure on it. I'll give you an example, like the Braves, when they won the World Series and they had Jorge Soler hitting home runs like crazy. That was what was needed at that time, right? That was the difference maker. The Rays don't have anything close to that right now.
No.
And so they've drafted to try to address it. But that's why I'm pushing the angle of Alex Burleson with the St. Louis Cardinals, or Oneil Cruz, because it's a weakness through the system, all the way down to the very bottom, that they're not able to get a corner outfielder that has power and speed and can anchor a lineup at the same time. If they get that, the rest of it they can figure out. They're experts at it. Their whole scouting department can dream up guys constantly to fill the rest of the holes. But they need to figure out that right fielder that is going to anchor them in a playoff run and really help push their lineup to the next level.
I'm just wondering if it's a dollar figure. I mean, for the future. I'm not talking about right now with the trades and the thing, because as you pointed out, got some really, really good defensive stuff going on out in the outfield. I anticipated Josh or even Nathan when he was with us, either one of those low boys, I would have thought that maybe they would have been that person. Certainly, I had high expectations for Josh, and not that he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but when you're talking about the level of the eliteness of somebody like a Mookie Betts, yeah,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, is this something down in the farm system we have to develop more? Is it something in the draft system we need to look at more? Where do
And
we go
that's
with
why,
this, Matt?
just look at the drafts. This is why they've done their rounds the way they have. Like this year, there was three outfielders in their top five picks. They're trying to address it, and they're picking different guys. So the first guy that I can envision possibly becoming that guy is if Xavier Isaac gets pushed to the outfield, he could be that kind of player that really, in left field probably becomes that power bat that scares the bejesus out of every pitcher on the mound when he comes up. And he's a great on base percentage guy as well. Still young, still has a lot to learn with the hit tool, but he's one of those first guys that could arrive and be like, wow. Behind him, there's Theo Gillen and Aiden Smith. Aiden Smith is more of a five tools, kind of guy, and his hit tool scares me, where he may never get to a high enough level. Like he might take a long time, a little bit like a Jake Mangum to figure it out and finally get there. But he has more power than Jake Mangum does. Um, but Theo Gillen is the first guy that I've seen in a race system that I'm like, if he stays healthy, because he has had knee issues in the past, he has the five tool package. He has that, wow, okay, now you've got that outfield anchor that you want out there every day. And they're the other guy that they drafted this year, Summerhill. He's another one of those types that could, and I haven't seen him play yet, in A ball. So it'll be different possibly when I see him against different pitching. But from what I hear and read and saw in college videos, it looks like he could be that intense kind of spark plug, And so if he's able to translate that at the higher levels of the minors, then the Rays would get very excited about that. But they're investing in, and so that's important that they actually keep trying, right? So yeah, in this trade period, I don't know if they get to resolve that corner outfield piece, but that's where I would lean that they focus on, whether it's at the MLB level or in the minors. I think they're going to target some outfielders just to increase their chances that one of them will break through and actually be that guy.
Now, I have seen on your list the name Oneil Cruz, and I thought, boy, yeah, that would be some juice. That would be great to have.
Right. And because he's controllable too, I could see them making like a lot of people like to dream on Kyle Tucker, right? But there's going to be a lot of takers on Kyle Tucker and a lot of competition. So whether or not you want to bet on that, it's really hard if you're the Rays, unless he's indicated in the past that he would love to play at home, right? And
Yeah.
stay there. I don't know. Maybe there's information there that I'm missing. But Oneil Cruz has elite tools across the board, except for the hit tool, which you can keep developing. He's still young. He's going to be 27, right? 28. You're going to have him age 29, age 30. So you're getting him in those core years.
Yep.
And I think that if they have enough success with him, they might, say, well, we're getting a new stadium. Are you interested in sticking around? And then keep him around for more years beyond that. But he is that kind of elite player who's never had the chance to play, I think, on a premium team. And I think his stock would take off even more as part of a better lineup.
We've seen some new faces coming up lately. I mean, the other night, Tristan Gray. That you've been talking about him for some time. You were talking about Trey Morgan for some time, but Tristan Gray as well. And it's interesting because I feel like while we're in the midst of trying to figure out all these trades, they're also saying, well, this is a good time to do some mix. And if you're really trying to get to the World Series, I sometimes say, well, I don't know if it's the time to do that mix, but when are you not going to do it?
So I think that's the main thing that the Rays have to ask themselves right now. Do they want to throw their chips to the middle with Brandon Lau and Yandy Diaz and, and Pete Fairbanks, really? Or can they lose Pete and still continue forward and find another reliever that can step up and be, a key cog in the pen and still improve and run with it for this year? Or do they sell them all? I don't think there's an in between those three. Like I don't think you can just let Brendan Lau go and
No.
still compete for this year, right? I don't think you can let just Yandy Diaz go and still compete for this year. I think there will be ups and downs, and maybe you could benefit in some ways. I don't know. But it feels like that. Like if they're going to trade Yandy Diaz or Brendan Lau, both of them are going to go, and so is Pete. And they're just going to turn the page and they're going to start handing the reins to some of the other players. But it's a really tough call to make for the Rays, especially when you have new ownership coming in,
Yeah.
who's going to judge you based on these moves. What conversations are going on with that new ownership?
Mm,
I have no idea, but I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
man. Yeah. I mean, conversations, or will they be speaking? I mean, they're going to be obviously speaking with Stu, but will they also be speaking with Neander? Will they be going, down the list? Well, there's going to be people who have connections. Let's see. Here's a question, too. The new owner it's with a group that owns the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp.
Yes.
Now, yeah, I love that name. Is there going to be a conflict by owning a team they're affiliated, I'm sure, with another MLB team, aren't they?
I'd take it a step further. Like, what influence did he have in that Marlins team deal?
Yep.
Think about it from this point of view, where Matthew Etzel has no guarantee to ever make it to Major League Baseball. He's got good tools and he's a good prospect, but he's not now nowhere near the top of the top 30 prospects the Rays had. And the Rays got one of the top 5 defensive catchers in Major League Baseball for him. So what influence did he have in allowing Fortes, and on top of it, the guy who's running the Marlins as a GM is an ex-Rays front office.
That's right. That's Chaim, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's Bendix. It's Peter
Oh
Bendix.
gosh, I can't keep up with them anymore.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you look at those, triangle like pieces, I guess, because Nick Fortes was with the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp at some point. So it's really strange. Like I think the important part to kind of sit back and say is until the ink is dry on paper, really they shouldn't have any say. But we know that's not true. We
Yeah.
know that, no matter what, there's going to be things because the last thing Stu would want is for him to make a move that either angers or changes the terms or does whatever, jeopardizes things. If you trade Yandy Diaz and Brendan Lau and the owner was like, I wanted to keep those guys, then what are you going to say? So I'm sure things are going through the channels to make sure that whatever's decided on is kind of kosher, I guess is the best way, especially with the bigger stars of the team.
What's kind of funny while you're talking about that, this image came to mind of a chess game.
Mhm.
And that one person is picking up, we'll say their bishop,
Mhm.
and they're looking across the table as they're still holding it in their hand. They haven't put it down yet. And they're
Yeah.
starting to look and say, what's going to be the impact if I do this? And in this case, it didn't matter of just getting on the other side of the board. It's you actually want to make that person happy too. It's not about just winning.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think that there's necessarily a direct influence on those things, but certainly there are thoughts that Stu and the whole Rays organization has to be thinking about right now and saying to make this team as attractive as possible for the new owner to give it the best value for them to facilitate and complete that deal. So we will see.
Mhm.
Oh, brother. But tonight, Zach Littell's out there on the mound. Is he still out there? I haven't looked lately. And he it's one of those deals too. It's like, Zach, yeah, go out there and play. I keep waiting to see if Cash comes up behind him when he's sitting over there between innings and saying, putting his hand on his shoulder and saying, Zach, go ahead. We got somebody clearing out your gear for you. Go ahead and put it together, and we'll see you.
Well, he hasn't allowed a run yet. Only allowed 2 hits, 3 walks in 4 innings, but he's thrown 80 pitches. So chances are he only goes 5 tonight, I would imagine. The Rays, the hitters are not backing him up big time. They only gave him 1 run, and that was Brandon Lau on a double that drove in Taylor Walls. So welcome back, Brandon. It's nice to have you back in the lineup. But yeah, there's so many people that are probably sitting on that bench right now, including Kevin Cash, going, what's my team gonna look like tomorrow? Oh, like that's a weird feeling to have, especially where you are in a division, how close you are to the Yankees, and you're playing them in New York, and you're thinking I should just be focused on beating the Yankees, but in the back of my mind, there's always that, thought, a lot could change. Now, the Rays are in a weird position because if you look at Dom Keegan, who's a catcher, they have Carson Williams, who's a shortstop, who can play, probably third base if you wanted him to, and Trey Morgan. And I would add to that Tristan Peters in the outfield. You have four guys that I would deem quote unquote MLB ready. So that to me is what supports making some moves. Because no matter what, you can call them one of these guys, and I think they would do well at the major league level. So whatever you get in trade from somebody else for one of those pieces, at those positions would actually bring back a lot of value for the future. But it's weird to say, Mark, but I can see the Rays this time around because of the new ownership coming in saying, you know what, we're going to stick with what we have, but we're going to trade Taylor Walls to, let's say, the Pirates or somebody else for whatever piece they're looking for. And we're going to call up Carson Williams. Because I think you have to pick and choose if you are going to try to amp up things at for a playoff series. And I don't think anybody else has as much impact for the Rays going forward into a playoff race than Carson Williams would. Just because of the speed, the defense, and the power that he would provide at that position. We were talking before about right field being one of those positions where the Rays are lacking a little bit. Well, if you amp up that angle of the game at shortstop, why wouldn't you avoid it? And his June, July tell me that he is opening up some eyes that he might be ready. He's knocking on the door. He's a very mature individual, very well grounded. I know he could handle the major league pressure. So that's something I could see happening with the Rays if they decide to not throw all their chips in and go and trade a lot more assets.
Well, let me ask you something else. Last night watching the game, it was interesting because I'm thinking, oh, we're going up against Max Fried. We got Joe Boyle and we got Max Fried. We've got a newbie and we've got a veteran who's just going to kill it. And while indeed the Yankees won last night, it wasn't to the extent that I think a lot of people feared it might be with Max on the mound. I don't think Max has done as well lately as he was maybe earlier in the season. I could be wrong there, but I think he's we'll see. And the other thing about the Yankees right now, they are definitely working with a deficit when you don't have Mr. Judge or Mr. Cole out there with your team. Those two guys are pivotal. They make all the difference. That record is going to change immensely. So we have the chance to take three of the four. Yeah, we've lost one. There's only two games thus far. We're working on the third one tonight. It would be so cool to walk out of Yankee Stadium with 3 wins. But I don't know, brother. We'll see.
Yeah, I think sadly if the trade deadline was August 2nd, it would be a lot different in how you could react, right?
Yeah.
That one extra game matters. But I think that game that you're talking about, the Fried versus Boyle, I really liked what Boyle showed, like the potential. He's like a wild stallion, and they were trying to tame him down, and the velocity was just you could see the nerves and the over pitching. And the Rays have done that with a couple of their pitchers, but it showed a lot of his potential. Now, I think if you have him working with Nick Fortes for a long time, he'll get himself under control and he'll do much better, in the next time out. Like, I think he's facing the Dodgers the next time he comes up. So good luck with that too. It's not going to get any easier. But he has stuff that can overpower hitters, definitely, as long as he stays within himself. So I really like what we saw from him. But you're right, Max Fried, I think the umpire also had a lot to do with it. And he hurt both pitchers equally, really. But he wasn't calling a lot of the high strikes and he wasn't calling a lot of the low strikes. So everything had to be in the middle, and that can get testy, when you're somebody that likes to work the fringes. But I think Max Fried is definitely one of those guys that in the playoff situation will be tough to
Mhm.
face. And the Rays showed that they could score some runs off him. So, that's only going to build confidence in them if they ever did face him in the playoffs.
Yeah. Wow. I just the excitement for me, if I had to pick one guy, it's definitely going to be Chandler Simpson. And the energy that, I mean, we talked about it when we talked with Posey from the Biscuits, and just watching him, I mean, just earlier tonight, talking about the leaping to get that catch, running and stealing the bases. He's redefined what the race can be. I was talking with a fella today who's got quite a bit of history and family from Tampa and baseball, and he was talking about one part he misses in the game. I think he's a bit old school, and he likes, I think, stealing. He
Mhm.
likes to see the bunts. He likes to see sacrifice flies. And I don't think he realized that the Rays are doing a lot of that, because I hear some people being critical of the Rays in that particular category. And I think, we're seeing more bunts. We're seeing certainly stealing bases.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know what more old school you'd want to see from this team.
Oh my goodness. No, they're about as old school as you can get.
Yeah.
The only thing they haven't done is run over guys at second base when they try to steal. Right? I think that's the only thing, or and spike somebody at the plate
Oh.
when they, kick sand on the umpire. What is he looking for that's more old school than what the Rays are doing this year? There's no openers. Everybody is starting, that's so yeah, I think the Rays are definitely playing an old school, maybe late 80s style of baseball that people are appreciating a lot. And they're a fun team. They generally speaking, there's nobody that's arguing otherwise that I can see. There's always going to be people that pick on the Rays because they are the Rays. But I look at the future of the teams though, and I wonder who's going to stick around. Like if I look at the lineup right now, and the bench especially. I'm like, who's going to be here in 3 years? Chandler Simpson definitely is one of those guys I could envision sticking around. Junior Caminero, Jonathan Aranda, but you get beyond that, and it's like, oh, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast too, because unless there is something that is just the Rays are they're going to churn them, and they're going to make sure they had them young, and while they still have them under control, they're paying them before they're into arbitration or a free agent. And I think that's just the nature of it. I don't think that will change with new ownership, because I think that's part of the appeal of the Rays. Let's face it, there's been a lot of appeal to Neander's children, if you will, whether it be Bendix, whether it be Heim Bloom, and who's the other fellow who was out there at Houston for a while? Click. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hmm?
James Click, yeah.
James. Yeah. I mean, those are ones I can think of anyway, three right off. So what the Rays are doing is appreciated by others. So I don't know, brother. I think we still got a good season ahead of us. I'm curious to see how this falls out in the next 24 hours, seeing if Pete will still be with us. I think Brandon will be. He's he's in the game. There's going to be at least one more run on the board, period. The RBI tonight's kind of indicating that.
Yeah, I'm trying to read the pitching. Like if the starting pitching, I think the Rays are confident in enough that they
Mhm.
will push their chips in, like we said before. Then yeah, you keep Brandon, you keep Yandy, and you go for it. And you just say, you know what, we'll worry about everything else next year. And they do have options on both of them, right? Like the only one that's really a free agent that they're going to lose no matter what is Zach Littell. So you could make a case that Taj Bradley could come back up and take Littell's spot, and Zach Littell will be one of the few ones to go, and maybe Pete Fairbanks, depending. I still fall, if Pete Fairbanks has a finger or temperature issue that jeopardizes his performance in the playoffs, why in the world would a team trade significant value for him, right? Like I don't know that value will ever be there, and I don't know that the Rays will ever sell low. So it's a catch 22, and then the Rays are stuck using them in those situations if they do have them aboard, and then chancing it, they're stubborn. They are definitely one of those stubborn teams. I think if I had to say, which player would be the most likely to be dealt by the Rays this time around, I do think it's Taylor Walls because he has value, because he's shown to be a more versatile player and a little steadier offensively than he had in the past and showing more dimensions to his game. And so they'll have value in there. So what I'm thinking is if they're able to package him to a team like the Pirates with a lot of really high-end prospects for an Oneil Cruz, sure, do that, and you'll improve the Pirates. Just their entire pitching staff will be much better because they have Taylor Walls at shortstop. But other than that, I don't know that there's a huge move out there. I'm not surprised they moved on from Jansen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am curious to see how it all goes from here.
Mm.
I don't know how much more you want to about the Rays or Major League Baseball. I do have some other things I want to address
Sure.
today. One of them is the women's baseball, excuse me, the all women's baseball tournament. Now, this is one that Souza Pay, who I've talked about before on the show, who passed away recently, great woman who was with the All American Girls Professional Baseball League. She kind of got started up and was looking at a way of maybe having a limited number of teams play for a limited season each year and just build over time. Well, some of that's changed because there was also some other things going on. There is the Women's Professional Baseball League, which actually started up with a lady, Justine Siegel, and an organization called Baseball for All. While all that's going on, and you guys maybe hear this story before, is that Kim Ang, who was supported by Commissioner Rob Manfred, has put together a league for softball. And I am so good with that. But I thought Rob should have started with women's baseball first. Another thing, and just throw out information into the mix. This tournament that's going to be held in Durham, which is called the All Women's Baseball Tournament, which is part I was talking about Sue having started a while back. It's changed a little bit. Um, the structure of the games and such, not so much. You still have like four teams that are named after the original teams of the All Americans. You're the Peaches, Rockford Peaches. You've got the Blue Sox, the Comets, and I forget who else. But the part that has changed is that this is also kind of the proving ground for the USA women's national team.
Mm.
So what happens there and the people that are seen there, that's also going to be sort of where maybe we see future women from the USA women's national team, which is the equivalent of the USA's women's Olympic team if we actually had baseball Olympics.
Why don't they have women's World Baseball Classic?
Well, I mean, they do. I mean, you think about in Thunder Bay last year,
Mhm.
we have it like every 3 years.
I'm saying make the women part of the World Baseball Classic. Make they the same exact tournament.
Oh,
They could even piggyback on the exact same. So if Canada's meeting the US, the women's team plays before the men's team plays. Yada yada yada. And you piggyback off that same like
I mean, they have the same organization, but they don't put them together. They don't bring them together at one location at the same time. And I mean, quite honestly, I like kind of the independence of it, but I also see that there would be a strength in having USA.
the
Uh,
fans are already there, right?
yeah,
The fans are there. So the Colombian fans would be there to watch the Colombian men, they would watch the Colombian women. Yada yada yada. The whole thing. So I'm not saying it's gonna force the fans to watch it,
no,
but it's going to give them the opportunity while they're there. Why not? Right. So, and I think it would just bring a natural attention to another aspect that Major League Baseball can then benefit from on the other side as well. Because, like we've said before, they probably should be involved in creating a women's league that is equal and, as competitive as Major League Baseball is. So, it's one of those opportunities where I think you kind of have to, if you're baseball, so the other leagues aren't doing it. So you have a women's World Cup of soccer and you have a men's World Cup of soccer. Well, they miss out for that. They don't do as well because they're separate. If they were together, probably they would do better. So maybe you can be that first league that decides to pair them up. Like hockey hasn't done it. The WNBA hasn't done it with the NBA. Be the first league that says, you know what, we're going to put them together and we're going to show the world what there is to offer. Maybe that could be the difference maker between them and the other leagues.
It it would be curious, but I'm not sure I agree with you completely. I get it, but I'll tell you one thing. Years and years and years ago, back when I was in college,
Mhm.
and I worked at the campus radio station, and myself and a gentleman by the name of Gary Elder would go ahead and we wanted to be able to call the basketball game for the University of Louisville and
Mhm.
the men's team. Well, lo and behold, licenses and such would not allow them to let us do it. However, before most every men's game at this fairground center, which is large, was fairly large, they would have the U of L women's team play. So Gary and I would go out there. He would do all the play-by-play, and I would do some color. And it was a beginning in some ways. People who got there early from the to see the men's game would catch some of the women's game,
Mhm.
and we kept wondering, will this evolve? And obviously it did. It took a few decades, but and maybe there was something as far as building that initial audience there, and I can see that. I don't know. We're going to see how this goes because sometimes I feel like we're going two or three different ways at the same time, and are we going to build enough strength beneath each one of them, or are they going to find a cumulative effect? But but if you're already hitching yourself to something that's already got strength, legs, and structure, if you will, and infrastructure, then yes, maybe the USA women's national team and the the men's team, they should be coming in and blend those tournaments together. Why not?
Yeah, it's a bigger event. It's a longer event. There's more opportunities to get kids in the games, and I think you know I've seen this happen in a lot of different sports. The more access you give people to any kind of game, the more they're going to be drawn to it. So it doesn't matter if it's lacrosse, if it's hockey, if it's basketball. It's all similar in terms of what they need to get excited about it.
Yep.
Like I, yeah, you can go all the way back to before games were televised. Like just hearing a game on the radio way back when was a big deal because it hadn't been, right? You had to go to the games before they started broadcasting games on the radio. So imagine that. You had to go to the park physically and watch it
Yep.
in order to know what the game was like. And then people would talk about it and it would become a big rumor mill. And then the radio came out. You never got to see it, but you got to hear it. And then the TV came out. And now we're at the streaming portion where you can literally see it live and happens. So yeah, I don't know that um yeah, I don't know what the secret sauce is for them, but I know that having one direction definitely would help the process along. And I don't, maybe they can create their own tournament that's similar to the WBC. It has a different name, but I just think the WBC is such a success for baseball internationally, not just in North America, but you have the Japanese who take it extremely seriously.
Oh yeah.
The Koreans who do it, the Canadians even love it when they beat USA way back when. You have a lot of different aspects to it that make it a bigger draw and would actually, you know, promote the game globally, not just the United States in one league or two leagues, depending on how it works out. So yeah, I don't know. I think it
Well,
has.
yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. I think it definitely has potential. I am interested too, though, in seeing what's coming up in later in August, and that's going to be the Women's Pro
Mhm.
Baseball League. And you mentioned as far as international, I
Mhm.
know that Ali Schroeder from Canada, fantastic baseball player,
Mhm.
has signed on with that. And there's a few other, I think there may be a lady from Japan. I think there's some from Australia who have signed up with this. It's going to be interesting because to take a peek here, there is 600 women who have registered and only 150 will make it through there. From that, they'll maybe the 150 they'll actually put together the teams because they're going to limit it to just a very few teams the first year. So
Who's the most famous basketball player in the women's league in the WNBA?
you besides Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. Yeah. So who's going to be that first name in baseball that everybody recognizes? And I don't know what's going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Maybe It's hitting 40 home runs, 50 home runs. Maybe it's throwing pitches at 95 plus miles an hour. I don't know what it's going to take, but somebody is going to be that player. I have a feeling, or there's going to be a couple, and they're going to have to carry that, the league to the next level. And people will go and see that if it gets promoted correctly. Like that's going to be a draw. So I'm curious, like once they start playing and action starts, Mark, promote us that information and let us know who is shining, you know, in that kind of format, basically.
What I can tell you is that a lot of veteran women who have been recognized as fantastic players,
Mhm.
including I know the one player I can say Yami Sato from
Mhm.
Japan.
Yep.
She's a name they'll recognize. I think Allie's a name they'll recognize. And
Yep.
there's other ones I know as well that have been established players who will either be there maybe as an advisor or maybe a coach before it's all said and done. In the women's games that will be playing in Durham, that's which is separate. I know Tamara Holmes, who we had on the show a few times. Tamara is going to be one of the managers of those teams. So there's historic leaders and there's talent that's up and coming or who's been established. And yes, it's going to take that. But Caitlin Clark has really just been the name when you think of WNBA. If a person knows absolutely nothing about it, they probably know that woman's name.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I'm hoping for one of those names to come out the baseball side of it as well. Just like that one phenom that just says, you know what, the sport is here. It's arrived. It's it it draws eyes, and I mean that in the most fun way because you get excited about it. It's fun to watch those, outliers that kind of, just for whatever reason they're born with a gift or they worked hard to get that gift, and we need more of those gifts in the world, Mark. More is better.
we just need Jerry Maguire to go out there and sell it, man. Get
Show me the money.
well, think about it. If you can find a player that you can market with a product that's excited about having there, and that would be it because that person becomes, they are promoted not just within their sport, they're promoted in all these other things out there. It brings people back into the sport with it. And with Caitlin Clark, that is certainly the case. So, yeah, I would absolutely love to see it. Well, let's keep our ass on that one. Um, I'm not going to be able to go see the women for the tryouts for the Women's Pro Baseball League because I'm going to be heading toward Williamsport to see Little Leagues and World Series tournament. That's going to be fun. But there's a couple of things that bothered me recently, man. You saw the whole thing with the Venezuelan kids who had actually achieved status to be in the Little League World Series, but because of what's going on with Rubio and the State Department, these kids aren't allowed to come in the country and play in the tournament, even though they've qualified. They're going to have to be bringing somebody else in. And that sticks in my craw. So I'm probably not going to be popular about some of the things we'll say, but that's something I think that we just need to face up and people speak up about. I realize there's challenges right now, but that just seems wrong. And if you don't feel like that's what's going wrong enough, there's another piece I saw that I posted something on Blue Sky and others today, and it's probably 2 weeks old, and I just came around to find it. It's this coach, this manager in Harlem, and he's got these youngsters playing out there and with batting cages. It's a batting academy. It's Harlem Baseball Batting Academy. I love it already. And so he's there working on all these kids. He's got them from everywhere. He's the Dominican Republic, Africa, the U.S., wherever, all of them. Well, lo and behold, as they're working there in the batting cages and some other ones over playing a little basketball on the side, up come these agents start asking kids questions about where they lived. Yeah, we had a name for that when I was a kid. Some stranger came up to you in a ballpark and started asking you questions like that. Next thing they say, hey, can you come over? I got something by the snack stand I want to show you. It's this. Yeah, well, my gosh. Well, this man, he had the fortitude and knowledge to stand up and say, hey, you leave these children alone. These are not, you don't do that. Well, the covering agent that was said, no, 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 we didn't do anything like that. We weren't there. Yeah, well, I kind of doubt that. I kind of believe the man, and it's just another sense of where Whether or not you're telling me I got to change my team name back to the Indians, whether you're telling me that there's young kids who can't come into this country to play in a Little League World Series, and whether you're going ahead and questioning other kids, in a youth academy of baseball, because guess what? That's where they hang out. Go out there and go to the Home Depot store while you're at it, and let's go find some guys. Ah, rant, rant.
Yep. So
Well, go
I
ahead.
don't know if Bobby Orr, obviously,
Yep.
famous hockey player, defenseman for the Bruins. He became an agent after his career was over. And one of the things that he was found to be doing illegally was to try to sign players before they ever came of age to sign. So he would get them actually, I don't want to say pressure them, but however he did it, he actually approached them before they were of age to sign and coerced them essentially to stick with him once they were able to sign. So he ended up getting penalized for that. Like, I don't know exactly what the penalty ended up being, but young athletes are so um, influenceable. And I keep thinking back to the baseball side of things, how much abuse there has been over the decades in the Latin American circles, right? Where they basically have agents down there who will sell them to teams quite literally,
Well, yeah.
and they will own part of their salaries for years and years and years. And a percentage gets thrown to this person who just essentially sold the player to a major league franchise team. And it's so shady in so many different ways. And then I keep thinking back to, again, Wander Franco's deal. That was the most team-friendly deal I've ever heard of for a phenom, Mark.
Yep. Yep.
And then they had a lot of those kinds of same of, you know, I guess, ethic issues that you're talking about before.
Well, while we can talk about that, what's happening today, and not so much about where a person comes from. In a sense, you could be. You look back at Mickey Mantle, this old
Mhm.
country boy. Guy came out there, discovered him, and paid off, I think, the principal to tell other ones that he wasn't going to be able to do anything. So this agent got this young man, I think he was probably 16 at that point, to basically push. He got the principal to push other potential people away from him.
Mhm.
This is an adult controlling something where his father was. I mean, we're talking not taking anything away from him, but I think he was a simple man, did a simple job, and he wasn't going to be able to know how to do the best for Mickey. And it hurt Mickey in what he was able to negotiate in his early years with his career. But boo-hoo on. I know. I said I apologize, but I get on some of this stuff. But it's important, man. And Matt, when I saw that man talking about those kids,
Yeah.
but anyway, getting back to the game tonight, so we're playing in the third game of the fourth series right now. It is top of the seventh, and it's still 1-0. The Rays leading. Woo-hoo-hoo.
They've held the Yankees to 2 hits tonight, Mark.
Oh my gosh.
It's always great to see.
Yeah. Every time I see John Carlos Stanton walk up to the plate, I want to see him get beaten. But the sad thing is, I kind of feel like every time he steps to the plate, he already is beaten. And it's just like, it's kind of sad.
It is when you consider that this is the other thing I wanted to mention. I almost forgot. My goodness. Taj Bradley is throwing a no-hitter right now in the seventh in AAA. So he's allowed 2 walks. He has 3 Ks, no hits.
Way to go,
So
Taj.
you want to talk about making a statement and saying, I want back in. Like, he's doing it. They're winning 8-0 in Durham right now. And I think Trey Morgan's hit now 3 home runs in the last week. So everybody's been knocking him in terms of his power capabilities. And I'm like, it's going to come around. He's very young. He's only 22, I believe, in AAA. And his hit tool is as elite as Yandy Diaz.
Yeah.
So he's gonna get on base. So anyways, he hit a home run tonight, and Curtis Mead also has chipped in with a double. So it's good to see the AAA guys who want to get into the show to be doing well and supporting Taj appropriately.
I love it. I absolutely love it, man. I love to see the fire is there. We know sometimes sending the guy down is just what they need to get their head straight. It sounds like that's working for Taj.
Right.
Wow. Wow. It goes back to what we talk about a lot of times at the end of the show is minor league ball, man. Go out and enjoy it. It's just great. You've got them while they're hungry. You've got them while they're hungry. They just want to climb up there and get out of that bucket and make things happen. And Taj is obviously symptomatic of that. So who knows what we will see as the less than 24 hours when the trade deadline closes. But I don't expect too much. Who knows? Eric might surprise me, but I don't expect
Who
much more.
who do you think the biggest name will be dealt this trade period?
Fairbanks.
For the Rays, right?
For
But
the oh, you meant above that. Jeez, I don't know. Um,
it's a
uh,
tough one, right?
yeah.
You look at I think if a team loses its mind and really wants to do, sort of what the Cubs did when they went and got Aroldis Chapman from the Yankees way back when, if they throw a lot of money for Mason Miller, that could end up being the biggest name move just because of the dominance he has in that closing role that really, you know, puts your team pen at a different level. But position player wise, it's very thin. There isn't much in terms of impact because a lot of those lower down and out teams don't really have much to offer. We saw Ryan McMahon go to the Yankees. That might end up being the biggest position player to go, really, in truth, Mark.
I can't imagine. I'm trying to think what the Reds are doing right now. I mean, I always think of wouldn't it be neat to see Ellie down the cruise somewhere else? And Francona, what we still got some kind of friendship with him. He's the manager there. Could get somebody from the Reds like that.
But they just acquired Cabrian Hayes from uh,
Mm,
from the Pirates, so they got their third baseman. He's really good defensively, but offensively he's struggled. But will Cincinnati be a boon for him in terms of that, like changing the page, get some different advice at the plate? Maybe his bat comes to life, but I think they're adding more. Like their pitching, their front five are extremely strong. So I don't know. They're a threat in the playoffs. You would be, hard pressed to find a better depth in terms of the top five. And if you're taking two of those and putting them in the pen, that's that's a pretty good team. And Terry Francona, I mean, he could lead a team through the playoffs if he makes it in, if he squeezes in there. Um, they have to kind of contend with the Cubs and the Dodgers, obviously, which are going to
yeah.
be the favorites in the National League. And I think the Cubs are the team that could be the most aggressive. They're the team that I would look at for Mason Miller that says, you know what? We're giving them whatever they asked for. We're getting that guy again, like they did with Chapman, and we want that championship this year. But they need a starter too. So maybe they add in Jeffrey Springs, or maybe they add in Luis Severino, or
Mm,
I don't know. Like there's options there for them to kind of amp it up a little bit. But maybe they get Dylan Cease. I don't know. The Cubs are one of those aggressive teams. If they went out and got Kyle Tucker, and they might lose him this offseason for nothing,
yeah.
we don't know. They are pretty much all chips on the table. So they're the one team I look at across, and maybe Jerry DePoto in Seattle because he's he's been promising them a ring forever, and he
Yeah.
loves big trades. So yeah,
We will see, my friend. Well, I don't have any other nuggets. How about you?
that's all I got. I want the Rays to win the next two, Mark, and really, if they do that and they keep the roster as is and they add a little bit and they tweak something here and there, you know what? I'll be happy to write it out. And I think Rays fans should be too, because that shows a lot of confidence. But I want them to be understanding as well if things go awry and the whole thing gets dealt.
That's it. Because baseball is fun, as Mr. Brett Phillips coined. But the thing of it is, it's also just insane. And we see who is it? Mr. Engler taking the mound here in the bottom of the seventh. I want to see him. I just want to see us beat those Yankees for two more games. Let's just face it. It's one of those things that sticks in my craw. I can pretty much detach myself from personalities and teams on most of them, but not when it comes to Yankees. I'm sorry, guys. There you go.
I'm the same way, Mark.
Raise up, raise up.
uh, right on.
Oh,
Take care this week, and hopefully we'll have some really encouraging news to chew over next week.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks a lot, Matt. Thank you all for joining Matt and I here today on Baseball Biz on Deck. It's always fun, and we've got plenty of great things coming up here in the future. If you got any questions, of course, send them our way. There's links on all of the sites, wherever you may find us. And we'll talk with you again real soon.
And just a reminder, if you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.b Sky Social. That's Matt at matgermain.b Sky Social, or Mark at baseballbizondeck@gmail.com. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck at iHeart Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Special thanks to Scott Holmes for the music, stomps, and claps.